Hi, good evening, good morning, and good afternoon from wherever you're joining from. I'm Jesse. I'm going to anchor or facilitate this session. The presenter today is Shimpi. She has, let me tell you a few things about her. She has worked in IT company for around 10 years as a project manager and a scrum master. And in 2023, she had started her own coaching firm. Uh, and uh, she's living in Slovakia. 2017, she had moved there. And in India, she had lived in Bangalore and Pune. Her hobbies are hiking, travel, and reading. So when I asked her what is her greatest achievement, she told getting up early in the morning is her greatest achievement. uh, yeah, so it'll be a good to hear from some entrepreneur on the topic on business capitalism. So all these things somewhere gets merged, and she'll bring her experience with it. All the best, Shimpi. Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Jesse, for such a kind introduction. And I also want to say that thank you for the opportunity for being able to present this idea in this book today. And I really want to have this as a conversation, as a collaborative discussion, because I really believe that there's a power in collective intelligence. So everybody can contribute to the idea that this book presents. So before we get started, I just want to invite you all for maybe a small visualization exercise. Um, let's imagine that you are in a big auditorium, um, and there are hundreds of thousands of people. There's a there's a center stage, and there's a spotlight, and you are about to walk on that stage. Your family is sitting in the front row, waiting for you to come and give a message to the world. I would like you to think of what would that message be? What is your message to the world? You can write in the chat, what is the message that you want to give to the world? Keep trying. Anything else? Love and compassion is above all. I like that one. Strive for happiness. How to live your life for yourself. I'm here, so don't worry. Sarve bhavantu sukhina. Okay. All great messages. And I love to do this exercise because it really invites us to think about what is the message that we stand for, right? And I'll talk about the message later on, my message later on in the conversation as well. So really, this book...
Power and Beauty of Conscious Capitalism.
Sorry, it went ahead. So I want to start with, basically this book starts with redefining the idea of capitalism. And it says a lot about capitalism. It starts on a very positive note about capitalism, saying that in the past 200 years, capitalism has done a lot of good things for human beings, for the society. And just about 200 years ago, we had about 85% of the global population who lived under $2 per day. So, capitalism as a system, it brought a lot of people out of the poverty. Then it says that about 88% of the world population now, just in 200 years ago, it was just 12% who could read. So it really brought a lot of people who, and it removed the literacy rate. So it increased the literacy rate. And then also, just about 200 years ago, we had life expectancy of maybe up to 30 years, which now is around 60 to 70. So in a way, the author uses a lot of positive psychology to say that capitalism is actually a very, very good system. And it has a tremendous amount of potential to bring human flourishing to the society. However, the capitalism has also invited a lot of criticism, especially in the past 2 decades, I would say, because of the environmental damage it has caused, because of the inequality. A lot of people says that large companies, businesses do not really have a good reputation, especially around America. Business people are known as greedy. They are known as selfish people. So in the past few decades, the businesses has not really been able to prove themselves as something for good. So this book is an attempt to redefine business as a force for good. This was originally written by, this book has been written by two authors, John Mickey, who is the co-founder of also one of the most conscious business which I know of, the Whole Food Market, and also Raj Sisodia, who is an Indian origin person who I deeply admire as well. So now you would hear from John Mickey, who is the author of this book, and what he has to say about capitalism and business in general. So I'll just play a short clip, which I got from his website, basically. So here we go.
The power and beauty of conscious capitalism. Business plays a central role in our lives. We are affected more by business than by any other social institution. Most of us earn our livelihood and provide for our families by working for companies. And all of us purchase the goods and services companies produce with extraordinary efficiency and ingenuity. The quality of our lives, our health, and our overall well-being, and even our happiness depend greatly on the ways in which businesses operate. We have tried to stress throughout the book that business is not inherently flawed and sinful or in need of redemption. Business is fundamentally about people working together cooperatively to create value for other people. It is the greatest creator of value in the world. This is what makes business ethical and what makes it beautiful. It is fundamentally good. It becomes even better when it is more fully conscious of its inherent higher purpose.
So as you can hear from John Mickey himself, that he's a staunch believer of capitalism, and he made an attempt to redefine capitalism by really working structure on the company's structure itself and kind of redefining every processes. And later on, we can also see about the business strategy that their company has used. But going back to the idea in this book, it says that no problem can be solved from the same level of consciousness that created it. And this is a quote from Einstein. So it invites us to really think about how can we elevate our consciousness to solve the problem that capitalism has caused in the past 20 years. So how can we do it? The book talks about 4 pillars: higher purpose, stakeholder orientation, conscious culture, and conscious leadership. These are the 4 pillars under which systematically, if you work on the company, you can make the business more conscious. Anybody has any question, any comment, any thoughts that they want to contribute at this point?
Shimpi, whose purpose are we talking about? The company's purpose or individual's purpose or something else here?
In this book, particularly because it's a business, it talks about business as a force for good. It says that every businesses should have a higher purpose. So earlier in 70s, there was a shareholder theory that came into existence, which said that the only purpose of business is to maximize the profit for the shareholders. And later on, this idea was challenged by stakeholder theory. And it said that no, purpose of the business is not to generate just the money or profit. Think about the doctors. Is their purpose is to earn money, or is their purpose is to heal people? Teachers, what is their purpose? Would you say that the teacher purpose is to just earn money, or they educate, right? So similarly, they said that every businesses inherently should have a higher purpose. It's not just about earning money. So there's a reason that any business exists. Does that answer your question, Jesse?
Yeah. Thank you. That's clear.
Anyone wants to add on that? Okay. So,
Repeat.
yes.
So, what's the difference between a conscious capitalism versus a social entrepreneurship?
Conscious capitalism versus social entrepreneurship. That's a good question. What I know of is that conscious capitalism works on a structure, like how can you make changes on the structural level itself. So one of the things that that has emerged from this movement, if I could say that there's a now B Corp. It's a let's say structure of the company that supports this structure on the governance level. So really the idea of conscious capitalism, and at least in my understanding, which is limited of course, is to bring the change from the structural level, because a lot of changes needed to happen at that policy needs to be changed, or governance needs to be changed. So there are some efforts that has been made, and B Corp is one legal structure that a lot of company now adopts to start that conscious business journey. I don't know a lot about social enterprises, what kind of structures do they have, but it's a good discussion. Anybody who can add to what I have said? Okay. Okay, so if I can proceed further with your permission here. Higher purpose. The book talks about higher purpose. So with every themes that it talks about, higher purpose, conscious leadership, conscious culture, and stakeholder orientation, it comes with a acronym which defines what is a higher purpose. And in this case, they define higher purpose as a healing, because there's a lot of suffering in today's world. And healing acronym, it kind of means that H is for heroic, evolving, aligning, loving, inspiring, natural, and galvanic. And every acronym has its own depth, why it is that way. So evolving means that your purpose of the organization should be in such a way that it addresses the evolving needs of the society. I mean, right now we are going through a huge tech revolution, right? So, in my personal opinion, already I believe that the this book needs to be like evolve in its message. So, evolving. The purpose needs to be evolving to the needs of the society. It should be aligning. It should bring people together on a mission. And I could give some examples. The purpose could be centered around your customer. For example, Amazon's higher purpose is to be most customer-centric company. And that's the purpose that they strive for. And that you can see at each level of their processes, of their customer service, that they stand for that purpose. Whole Foods, um, the co-CEO, John McKay, the Whole Foods mission is to nourish the people of America with the organic, healthy food. So that kind of higher purpose, which brings a sense of meaning in the work that the employees and everyone involved in that business find. Now, this is a little bit of radical statement here. It says that the purpose of business is not to make a profit. The purpose of business is, it doesn't say that the purpose of business is to not make a profit. It says the purpose of business is not to make a profit only. So there is a higher purpose. It is either related to environment, people, planet, communities, but there has to be something higher than just making money, because that's not the purpose that inspires people. And then it says the purpose of business is to produce profitable solutions to the problems of the people and planet. So now something to think about for all of us. Why do you think that businesses need a higher purpose? What difference would it make if the businesses had a higher purpose? Any thoughts, any comments?
Shimpi, to me, looks like this higher purpose is something similar to a company's vision. Is that accurate?
Yes. You can call it vision. You can call it mission. In fact, every company starts with a mission, right? There's a, like, I remember when I was in corporate, the mission was on the wall, and every day we look at the mission. But this, when the book mentioned higher purpose, it goes beyond the mission. It goes on to say that the purpose should be embedded in your each and everyday interaction. It should reflect in your processes. And most times, the corporates have the mission statement only for the annual reports or for the wall. So it's the idea of this book is to have the purpose embedded at every stage, in every team processes, in every leadership decision making, and even in the strategy, in the culture. So It's really about, and I would even go on to say and share some example of what it means to have a higher purpose. Patagonia, it's a company, it's an apparel company, and they stand for the planet Earth, and they have a purpose trust, um, which holds the shares of the company, and they are the steward. They are the steward of the purpose of the company, which is to save the planet Earth and to nourish that. So it's about having a legal structure which can make the decision and impact the decision based on purpose at every single stage.
Can I say, I think the higher purpose as well, it's company culture that has to have the conscious capitalism, because it feeds in to the staff subconsciously when it becomes embedded within our thoughts, our habits, our ideas. And then it also raises the staff morale, so they actually work better, and there's a much lower retention of people leaving. I actually met Raj Sisodia in London. It was 2 years ago at the World Happiness Summit. And I got his book signed and had a quick chat with him. He's a lovely man, him and his wife, Neha.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Yes, exactly. And that's one of the things that the book mentioned in the later chapter, that conscious culture is one big part of it. And we'll get into that shortly. Any question, any thoughts, any ideas that anybody want to bring into the room?
So there's something that's coming in my mind. I'm not sure if it's related to this or if it affects this. Can I share it?
Of course.
Okay, great. So the question is, why do businesses need a higher purpose, right? And as you correctly said, that we all need higher purposes in businesses to get to some level and to serve the evolving world better, right? So a thought is coming to my mind that every job that is being created right now in the world is somewhere to address that higher purpose. It is somewhere contributing to that higher purpose. And every individual that joins, be it an organization, be it a profession, or literally being born in this world, I feel like we all have a higher purpose, and it's a big why, big what it is. And I'm just thinking about it is making me reflect back on my journey as a human being and how my purpose has evolved. Like you previously said, that it is always evolving. So started from when we are young, it starts something else and we become something else. Then we realize that this is not something what we want, and we suddenly realize that realization of purpose happens. So I am having that realization of purpose. So thank you so much for sharing that.
Yes, yes, of course. And that's the biggest idea in the book, actually. It talks about business as a system, which is continuously evolving system. It's not a static system. It's a living, breathing,
Absolutely.
evolving, just like us human being. I mean, the company is nothing but in the end, it's leaders and it's the employees.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
I tried to animate this, so okay, now it's fine. So the second pillar that it talks about is the stakeholder orientation. And this is very, very interesting pillar for me, because what we talked about earlier is that earlier 70s theory suggested that there's a primacy of shareholders because of the belief that the business exists for maximizing the profit for the shareholders. This book brings the idea that why just shareholders? Why not employees? Why not communities? Why not investors? Why not suppliers? partners, they are also equal. They are also the stakeholders in the entire system. And the problem with the shareholder being the only stakeholder is that it becomes like everybody else in the system becomes a means for the end, which is maximizing the profit for this one stakeholder. So everyone becomes like a means to drive that. And it's kind of a dehumanizing if you look at it that way. And that's the result that we see, that we have suppliers who are neglected, we have environmental damage uh, capitalism has caused because of the neglect that we have given to other stakeholders. So this stakeholder orientation says that uh, stakeholder orientation, meaning that all stakeholders are important. They're not equal, but they are important. And we need to give a threshold amount of attention to each stakeholders, be it employees, be it customers, be it shareholders included, right? So that's the idea, that you need to, as a conscious business, if you want to make your business conscious, recognize that every you are part of the bigger whole. If the business is a whole, then all the different stakeholders are parts of that bigger whole. So that means that all of them, their well-being, their flourishing is important. Otherwise, it leads to one shareholder being the supreme, which causes a lot of damage. It also talks about, if the customers are your stakeholders, it's our responsibility that we educate them, we inform them correctly, and also the communities in which the businesses operate. It should make a lot of difference there to create a happy community. So overall, this one is one of the biggest pillar that that the book suggests. Thank you for sharing. ChatGPT says capitalism make money for owners, make money ethically while benefiting all. Social entrepreneurs solve a problem, money sustains the solution. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Okay, so now I want you, because we are all coaches and maybe even more. So I just want to invite you to apply all this learning, because, at the end of the day, if the knowledge is not applied, it's not very fruitful. So how can you apply this stakeholder orientation concept into the coaching journey or the coaching business? Any idea, any thoughts are welcome. Anyone who wants to take a chance? How can you?
Shimpi, this stakeholder orientation is a project management concept. Whatever stakeholders are there, we need to keep communicating with them, build consensus. All those things are there. So if it is in coaching as a business, then same thing applies. Whoever are the stakeholders. Usually for solopreneurs, it might be, say, advertising agencies, customers, the owner. Yeah, these people.
Absolutely, absolutely. The agency, even the peers, are one of the most important stakeholders, in my opinion. So there's a lot of ways we can create value for all the stakeholders, even in coaching. Any questions, any ideas at this point? If not, I'll move on. So the next big pillar is culture, conscious culture. And this one is, I think this is the crux of overall idea in this book. And a famous management consultant, Peter Drucker, he famously said that culture eats strategy for breakfast, meaning, you have the strategy of whole food market, which is one of the most conscious business, I think, in my opinion. But if you replicate the strategy in other company, do you think the company will perform in the same way as the previous company? Not really, because it's the culture. It's the culture of the company that makes sure that the strategy succeeds. And if you look at some of the statistics, 70% of the change initiatives that the companies bring, they attempt to bring, they do not bring the desired results. And one of the important reason is because of the culture, because of the people who are the driver of these strategies. So the book really talks about how can you create a conscious culture in the company. I mean, let's say you hire a new joinee in your company, and you say, your purpose is to make the stock price go from this point to this point. Would that person feel really inspired about working for the company? Not really. I think it's about the culture, and how do you foster that culture of trust, authenticity, caring, transparency, integrity, loyalty, and empowerment that drives people to stay. And I think somebody beautifully spoke earlier that it's the retention and the happiness. And these days, this has become even a bigger factor for people to stick to the company, the culture. It's not necessarily the money or the salary, but the culture and how it makes you feel. A good example of conscious culture were
Shimpi, are you there? Okay, looks like
Frozen. Hopefully she'll just come back in again.
yeah.
She might just drop out and come straight back in, which should be fine. I think Zoom still keeps the connection for a couple of minutes. Do you have a number you could text her or WhatsApp her maybe?
Yeah. Thanks for that idea. I'll do that. Meanwhile, I'll pause the recording.
So I think you also need to give me the sharing permission once again. Yes, now I can. This one. Sorry about that. That was a surprise. Let me see. So what I was talking about, the company culture, and one of the example is the Barry Wimler culture, and they asked every employees to take a vacation of 4 weeks so that the company can accumulate enough amount of money. And that happened. Everybody took 4 weeks off, by mutual agreement. And they had enough money at the end of that initiative that they could run for the next 1 year. So that's the culture of belonging to a company, belonging together and coming together for a purpose and standing together even at the time of crisis. So that's the kind of culture that this book talks about. Okay, so now, is there anyone who wants to share some example of winning corporate culture? You all come from different backgrounds. What does it look like for you? What is a winning corporate culture? What's your experience been?
I can share my experience. Whenever the team I'm working in, there is a good, close, friendly connection, then that exceedingly performs well. And whenever there is a detached, mm, uh, like, or okay, I'll work for this many hours, that's my contract based approach, then the efficiency, the energy level of the whole group goes down. So that's at project level. Company level, I have no clue. It's too big.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Absolutely. I think engagement is, there was, in 2024, there was a report shared by Gallup or McKinsey. I don't remember exactly, but there only 30% of the employees globally feel engaged at work. So this is a important task, especially for the leaders. How do you bring back the motivation and engagement of the employee? And like you said, Jesse, if everybody is a taker from the system, in this case, business, investors want to make the most profit, customers want to have the least price for the product, employee want to work, minimum amount and have the maximum salary, suppliers don't really care. So everyone is a taker from the system. Where would that system go? So the idea is to have that culture where everybody gives, so that you have a winning culture.
You can see in the UK how it's been affected so badly.
Tell me, tell us more about that, Amber.
It's the we've had huge issues. We've got the highest amount of debt in the history with this government. They're basically very from the Fabian Society, this government. So they believe in communism. And DEI has been a plan that a lot of these countries had planned with the WEF and the UN, if you look into the history of it, to bring in the control. And DEI has destroyed it because we're not getting the best people for the jobs of meritocracy. It is basically, you tick a box to say, I'm of this. They advertised a job, for example, only last month for Downing Street, the Prime Minister's security. And they said that they did not have to have security experience. Now, this is for the Prime Minister and and people from other ethnics are welcome. We have 40,000 people due to all of this DEI who are on the terrorist watch list. 40,000. Most of them, we've got a huge, and then we've also had, due to the DEI, we have had 250,000 girls that we know of. We believe it's up to 1 million that have been gang raped by mainly Pakistanis. I coach these girls who have gone through this ordeal because of the DEI are saying that we can't say anything bad about these people, it'll be racist. So it is affecting all cultures, and it's also affecting people like me who are Indian here because, we're afraid, because we're afraid to be judged slightly whenever we are totally integrated, but we're afraid of it backfiring on us and us being judged when they say, we don't want any brown people here. And it's, as you see, it's happening in the Western world, a lot of these countries, Italy, and there's riots, and it comes into this. And it started, I spoke to Raj about this, and he was also concerned that all of us who fully integrate, uncivilized people come in and take over as part of their culture. So it's really worrying. We have places, people can't bring dogs into work, for example, guide dogs, because in prison, the Muslims are not allowed to be searched by dogs for drugs because this is prison. So how are they supposed to check these people for drugs? It's not been anti any religion. It's about what's right for safety of the country. what do we do? There's no other options available.
Hmm.
And then you get called Islamophobic, but you're not, because I've got close friends who are Muslim. And they're feeling it too, like myself, people who have integrated. And this is a problem with coming across the world all over. I don't know what, it's political, and it has to come, the governments have to work with the companies in conjunction in order for no society is successful unless people are happy. And that's what it boils down to. Whenever we're happy, we want to work more. We want to work harder for the person that we like, because they treat us well, so we'll work harder. It's all our mirror neurons, the biology, psychology of it, and neurobiology, as you all know. It encourages us subconsciously to work harder and better everyone thrives, everybody. So that's politically what's happening, and I know it's happening worldwide in certain countries in particular.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing, Amber. Marilyn, do you have some thoughts?
Hi, I am in the UK too, and I was just going to say that this is a very, very, very complex situation, and there's so many different views to it. So I just wondered whether this was an appropriate place to be talking about that. But I do take Amber's point and how it relates to business. But we all have so many different views to this. So I just wondered whether, it would take up too much more time in discussing this, because I support some of the things, but I also have very, very different counter views as to what is happening in the UK and what is happening around the world and why it has happened, and the policies of the governments and the interference and everything, and the hypocrisy. There's so much of it. So, I just thought perhaps I'd just mention that.
Yeah,
Thank
and
you.
that reminds me of one of the criticism of this book, which I can share at this point, is that some critics says that why should the ethical responsibility should be on business? Why shouldn't let's say government do this, right? So when we say that conscious capitalism, business as a force for good, business people say, why should we care about the society, right? So that's one of the critics of this book, that is a fun aspect that I could share. Anyhow, we are at the last pillar, which is conscious leadership. And again, quoting Peter Drucker here, that only three things happen naturally in an organization: friction, confusion, and underperformance. Everything else takes leadership. And what Raz says is that the company does not have consciousness of its own. It's the people who work in the company. It's the leaders who are steward of the company's purpose. They have the consciousness to really drive the organization in one direction versus the other. And then the book goes on to define the characteristics of a conscious leader, which is strength, enthusiasm, love and care, long-term orientation, emotional intelligence, systems intelligence, and spiritual intelligence. And they're all kind of complementary to each other, right? So if you have just strength without love and care, it can quickly become a tyranny, and you are just like power-driven and strength. But if you combine strength with love and care, you have tough love, but you're tender-hearted, then that is a conscious leadership, because there's a lot of decision that you need to make that requires courage, but at the same time, care and love for the society. Talks about adaptability, how quickly you can adapt, and then long-term orientation. A lot of companies, investors are really focused on short-term gain, and that causes a lot of damages, because we don't think in terms of generations. We don't think in terms of what is going to be impact on our kids' kids, right? So it really invites us to think that long term, think about what is our children going to say about this. And also it talks about emotional systems intelligence. How do you see the interaction between the systems and then make an informed decision by inviting diverse perspective in the systems, which Amber was talking a while ago. Certainly it has challenges of its own, but really it's a holistic characteristic of a conscious leader that is required to steward the mission, organization mission, and really care for the people. Jesse, I see your hands are up.
Yeah, I have two questions actually. So in that systems intelligence, what is a system here? In in business or capitalism, what is the context and what is system?
When I think of systems, I think whenever two people come together, it's a system. If there are 5 people working in a team is a system. And also in team coaching, one of the thing is that we coach the team as an entity, not the people in the team necessarily. So it's any let's say cooperation that happens. There's a third entity, which is in this case, the business, the company itself. So that is a system, and understanding how each part of that system interact with each other. Knowing that, if the customers are happy, the customers are only going to be happy if the employees, the frontline employees are happy, they're doing the right service. I mean, one example that I can think of right now is of Starbucks. Starbucks, the frontline employees who serve the coffee, they are very well trained on the service or how to make the customer happy. So they got together in a conference in a room, and they were specially trained to show up for the customer. So it's that kind of understanding what is the connection between different parts of the system, how do they influence each other, right? So it's understanding the bigger picture, taking that 30,000 view perspective, and knowing if you make this decision here, who all is going to get impacted. So that's my understanding of the system.
Okay. One more question. So when we are talking about leader in this context, so what means it can be anyone, right? It can be a team lead, it can be a manager, it can be a CEO. So what does it mean here?
Yeah. So in my perspective, the leadership does not really need a title. Even if you are part of a team, you can show up as a leader when you show up to resolve a conflict on behalf of the team, you are coming up as a leader. So in my point of view, the leadership is actually more on the people who are directly or who are close to the processes, who are close to the, let's say, customers, because they understand the pain much more than executives sitting at the top. And one of the things that conscious leaders not talk about is that even the strategy usually, it's coming from military strategy from really ages ago, where the strategy is coming from top down. And now some of the most progressive companies are talking about strategy from down up. Like, how can you make the frontline customers and the frontline engineers participate in the strategy rather than coming from the top? Because of the volatile nature of the world nowadays. Earlier, we used to have strategy for 1 year, for 5 years. Now, it doesn't make sense. The world is moving so fast that your strategy needs to evolve quickly, and it needs to know the pain point of the customers.
Thank you.
So, yeah, any ideas, any thoughts? Anybody wants to chip in? Okay, so we are almost at the end. I wanted to end this nice review with a small spiritual quote, which is, bad can exist in the realm of good, but in the realm of bad, good cannot. And the reason it's my favorite is because the good is fundamentally good. So even the bad forces around you are there to get to know the good more, right? In the realm of bad, there cannot be any good. So that's one of the spiritual quote I wanted to end this session with. There are a few other books that kind of further builds on the idea of this. If anybody is interested in this philosophy or want to implement, there's a book also which was released later on. It's called Conscious Capitalism Field Guide, which gives you the whole approach how you can implement conscious capitalism in your business around all these pillars. So it's a really practical surveys, polls through which this can be really implemented as a framework. So there's a field guide book also out there, which if anybody is interested, you can take a look at that. But again, the idea for the bills, there are many books out there. These are some of the recommendation that I have. There's also one more. It's called Reinventing Organizations. And some of these books are really good to also build on the ideas. And some companies who have really done good job in this, in my point of view, is definitely one of the Patagonia. Patagonia is one of the conscious businesses out there. Unilever is one of the conscious business out there. If anybody is interested in looking up at other conscious business strategy, you can take a look at that. See what can be implemented under your context, how you can implement it in your context. So yeah, that's overall the idea of the book. So I will now stop sharing and want to say thank you everyone for being so patient and making it to the end of the session today.
Thank you, Shrimpy. Thank you. I know you have been preparing for it for the past few weeks. So appreciate your effort there. And I thank all the audience here for being patiently listening and actively participating in the whole session. Thank you very much.
Thank you
Bye-bye.
everyone. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.